Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the grand finals of the Three-Digit World Cup 2025 between South Korea and the United States. It's been a full week between the first set of grand finals and this bracket reset between the two teams. South Korea winning the first set of grand finals 7-1. Contrary to the winners finals between these two teams, which was 7-4 in favor of the United States, South Korea showing up last weekend and showing that they still have what it takes to win this tournament for potentially the third year in a row. And the United States now on the back foot, the underdogs looking to play spoiler and interrupt a 3-year win streak with another win of their own. The first one in quite a while for the United States if they manage to win here. I'm Dio, and I'm joined by this one guy for the final match of the Three-Digit World Cup 2025.
The real final match, we promised this time. This is actually for sure 100% the last time we'll be seeing you guys for this year, and it's going to be an interesting one. The United States, I think, came into the grand finals, as you mentioned, having won that winners final 7-4, looking like a very strong team. And South Korea just figured something out between the week of winners finals and the week of grand finals, where they beat Germany 7-1 in the losers bracket final, turned around and did the exact same thing. The United States looked completely powerless in the first set of the grand final. We talked during that match about all of the different map archetypes that we had touched in that pool, and the United States' lack of anything approaching success on nearly any of them. And so this is a spot where you're actually glad to have delayed the bracket reset if you're the United States, because it gave you a week to rethink your strategy. It gave you a week to plan out, okay, this is what we learned from that match. How can we adjust accordingly? And so we'll see what kind of changes they make to their pick and ban strategy and see if they can get something going on the board. Dio, here's how the United States can still win our favorite segment of the Full Circle podcast for anybody who's checked that out. And it's going to be the topic, I think, for this match here.
Yeah. So when we were talking about this beforehand, we were thinking, okay, pick the Nomod 2, pick the DT2, pick the DT3, right? Get the Amamiya Kokoro Fragrance of Page duo out of the lobby. However, the United States has banned out the DT2. The South Koreans have banned out the DT3, but DT1 notably left open. The United States is going to pick that. And I think a big reason why the United States is banning out that DT2 is that South Korea has looked pretty good on it every time they have played it. Doomsday Fanboy and Parisia in particular have both looked good on multiple occasions on that map, and so the United States, I think, not wanting to pick into the speed stamina, but this is a roster with a lot of really good DT1, DT aim players on the team. Taquito Pez in particular, very strong on this skill set. 80 Nuggets, also a pretty good player on this one, and Ethan Tricks can play a lot of this stuff as well. Will drop a little bit lower accuracy than some of the other players, but absolutely has the skill cap to approach and play maps like this as well. Flamestare may be coming in for the United States on this one also. So there's a lot of people on the US who can play this as compared to the DT2, where I think their roster is a little bit more set in stone. One other thing to note, bans for the United States going to be, of course, the DT2 that we saw earlier, but the Nomod 6 banned out this time around, which I think is a pretty good ban for the US, given what we saw on it the last time around. Fragrance Page, Amamiya Kokoro just putting on the carry pants. Not really anything the United States could do on that map to match them. So a very good adjustment, I think, for the United States coming out of the first set of grand finals there, instead of banning out the Hard Rock 1 and the DT4, changing things up and banning out some of the maps that South Korea had some very dominant performances on last time around.
Yeah, they definitely studied that first set of grand final where they struggled on some picks that I don't think we anticipated them struggling on. Removing those from contention this time around, opting into a map that we didn't see at all last week, a skill set that we really didn't see that much of either. We saw, of course, the Hidden One last week, really the only aim map that was played in that first set. Didn't see the Nomod one, Hard Rock one banned, didn't see the Fremont one. So, opting into something a tad bit different here to start this match off. And, this is what I think we expected and we wanted to see from the United States here. It needs to be a big adjustment, and this is starting off in exactly that fashion. And, if you lose this map, you were always kind of the underdogs on aim picks, I feel, based on, especially on how that, if anything, how that hidden one went last week. But it's type of aim, as I said, that we haven't really seen a ton of. So opening things up here with something a little different, and we'll see if it can maybe get the United States off on the right foot here, get them a little momentum in this match. We know how good both of these teams are with momentum, so if anybody can get out to a fast start, they'll feel pretty good. South Korea continuing the momentum from the first set, or the United States maybe reestablishing themselves as a team that really can be competitive in this grand final. And early on in the map, a couple early breaks. Amamiya Kokoro struggling a bit. Takedo with a couple of early misses. Doomsday Fanboy going to be the next. And there goes Ferguson Page as well. So this is starting off exactly how United States would want it. The last remaining FC in the lobby on their side with Pez.
Yeah, and I think this is the kind of roster that you really want to find success on this map, because all of these players for the United States are very strong on this. That said, combos are gone for everyone now. Pez, Takedo, Flametear, all missing at the end of that first KI time, about a third of the way into the map. Close to the halfway point now, and another miss comes out for Amamiya Kokoro. Tuesday Fanboy and Fragrance of Page recovering pretty well, still on good accuracy, but not quite matching the top score in the lobby from Pez at the moment. So still in favor of the United States, but by no means decisive. Another couple of breaks for South Korea, one to match from Takedo on the side of the United States. Just Fragrance of Page left now, and there he goes as well in the second KI time. Pez will also drop to the United States, but it is Flametear to hold on this time around. And this is something that we've talked about a little bit with this United States roster, but I don't know exactly how much it's been mentioned. It feels like there's no real star player for this United States roster. It feels like all of them have their things that they are very good at, have things that they can pop off on, and it doesn't feel like there's one player really in the spotlight for this team, where a lot of times you'll have carry players for a particular team that are in on nearly every single map. In the case of South Korea, it's definitely Fragrance of Page and Amamiya Kokoro, but this United States roster, every single one of them is just good enough that they can go in on a ton of different kinds of maps and all put up solid scores, and definitely working to their advantage here this time around. Multiple solid scores for all three of them, and it really comes down to the overall team comfort, as the bottom score for each team, on this map ends up deciding the map.
Yeah, and kind of got lost in the shuffle there a little bit. That did end up being reasonably close when all was said and done. Under a 100K deficit between the teams, which really is, you can chalk up quite a bit of that to Amamiya Kokoro struggling a lot. Whereas, Fragrance of Page matched Flametear and Doomsday Fanboy had a better score than either Takedo or Pez, but Amamiya Kokoro down there just barely over 200K. So United States, did win that, but it was far from comfortable looking at the score. Anything under 100K feels like it is really swingy either direction, but you're going to like the start there for United States. As you mentioned, the roundedness of this roster coming into play with all three members contributing on the map. And South Korea, unsurprising here, I think, going to opt straight into the Nomod 3 as their first pick. They picked this one late on in the match last week. They picked it in both their matches, in fact, winning it both times with some very good scores. I think Fragrance of Page, the first match against Germany, dropped, a 600-something thousand point score. Dropped down to 457K against the USA, but that was more than enough to top score the lobby and helped lead them to a near 300K victory the first time we saw this map. So, the roadmap, I think, for South Korea in this match, pretty straightforward. Just continue picking the stuff you picked last time until it stops working. Because obviously they did not give up a break point in that match, so all of their picks working out quite well for them, and no reason to change what's working for you.
Yeah, Death Taxes and South Korea alt. I don't know. There's just that they have an extremely good team, no matter the rank range, whether it's OWC, 3WC, or one of the other lower rank range World Cups. This team just always seems to have a lot of very good players for alt maps, and no surprise to see them picking into it once again here. Wondering who the third player is going to be for both of these teams. Last time around, it was Zaisen Udongain, also known as Restia, for South Korea. This time looks to be Allegrissimo. Kind of shuffling back and forth there. We do have Taquito in for the United States, who did not play this last time around. Ethan Trix coming back in. It does make you wonder if you're going to see Pez or Caleb. Looks to be Pez for the United States, the other player who did play this for them last time around. And now one swap for each team, back into the Nomod 3 for the second time in Grand Finals for both of these teams. South Korea definitely expected to take this one again, and I think you would be... I don't think you'd find too many people giving you a hard time for saying that South Korea is definitely the favored team on this. The United States, there's a world where they take it, but there's not too many of those compared to the worlds where South Korea takes it.
I do like the addition of Taquito for this map. I will say, generally somebody I expect to do well on ult and aim control. Was surprised not to see him in on this map the first go-round. But at the end of the day, it feels like there's a very good chance it won't end up mattering, unfortunately, if South Korea can perform up to the level they did the first 2 times they played it. And once again, it's Fragrance of Page holding that FC through the intro. Notably, though, this time was matched by Taquito before the ladder finally does break at the 300 combo mark. And guess who it is? Once more, the lone FC left in the lobby, Fragrance of Page, has been the top scorer both times this has been played so far. Do have a decent amount of combo on Ethan Trix, though, the recovery from the early miss, so he'll be there to pick up the slack for the United States and jump on any opportunity that may present itself. But as long as Fragrance of Page holds, which feels like a bit of a broken record to say, South Korea is going to be in a good spot in this with a small lead, but it's going to grow with that break from Pez.
And as these KI times come through, as the aim control gets more and more difficult during these sections, yeah, you're going to expect to see a lot of breaks. 2 of them there for South Korea. 1 for Taquito on the United States, but Ethan Trix and Pez holding through that section. And this score lead is actually coming back the way of the United States ever so slowly. It is down to about 24K now. Still in favor of South Korea. There's another break for Taquito. A couple of misses there coming through. And it is going to swing that score lead a little bit further the South Koreans' way. And there goes Ethan Trix, breaks right at the end of that second PI time. And that is a rough break for the United States. Just Pez now holding on to combo for them. Allegrissimo with a good recovery, close to matching Pez, about 100 combo behind. But Fragrance of Page still on the FC, nearly 1,000 combo, halfway into the map. And he is asserting dominance on this one. Let's call it that. There's nobody else even close to matching him in terms of the combo or the score right now. And a lot of this score lead, 80K in the favor of South Korea, pretty much all of it is coming from Fragrance of Page at the moment.
Yeah, Fragrance of Page at 340K, soon to be 350K. Next best score in the lobby is that 230K on Ethan Trix. So indeed, it is all on the shoulders of Fragrance of Page, but he appears more than capable of bearing that particular load as he will continue to hold this FC 1300 combo and growing. This is a ludicrous performance from Fragrance of Page. Once again, Allegrissimo, shoutouts, who has put together quite a good combo for himself since the early breaks, does miss immediately, as I mentioned, of course. Taquito with a solid recovery combo for the United States, but it's all playing a distant second fiddle as you watch Fragrance of Page just continuing to eat this map alive. And this is looking like having the potential of matching his first score, if not exceed it, depending on how the last quarter of the map goes for him. Continuing to hold into the final sections. And what more can you say about the level that Fragrance of Page has ascended to over the course of the last year or so in tournament play? Finally breaks on that crazy star jump pattern, but he has done more than enough to give his team an insurmountable lead, 30K plus into the ending here.
Yeah, it is an absolutely ridiculous performance from Fragrance of Page. Go ahead and talk about some of the other scores on this map with the leaderboard, not tournament plays, but leaderboard plays on this map once this is over. Because there's unfortunately no world where the United States can come back in this one, and it does end up being not that one-sided at the end of the day. Last time around it was 285K for South Korea. This time around going to be 224K instead. So still relatively favored toward South Korea, not too much that the United States can do about that one. Fragrance of Page, 1747 combo puts him at number 7 on the leaderboard with that play. Not too surprising, given he also has the number 1 score on the leaderboard at the moment, but still, the consistency to continue to set those kinds of scores in lobby, in match, with one try, is really, really impressive. And I think what's really unfortunate is Ethan Trix is number 3 on the leaderboard with Hidden, and just cannot find that in-match consistency, and it just goes to show. As well, Amamiya Kokoro, number 2 on the leaderboard with Nomod. It just goes to show how difficult it is to keep that level of consistency and find those massive pop-off plays in tournament, and that is an underrated skill that Fragrance of Page is able to show off here once again, pull out a massive combo as compared to both the number 2 and number 3 leaderboard spot holders in the same lobby with him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's really emblematic of the top tournament players in the world are the guys who have the incredibly high score, floor, and ceiling alike, who will, their worst score is going to be pretty good and their best score is going to be incredible, and they're going to reach that best score more often. And that really sets apart the greats. Your absolute top all-time tournament players are the ones who can continuously come up with those insane scores in a match setting. And yeah, Fragrance of Page is on his way, ascending to become one of those guys if he can continue putting up scores like that in grand finals of these big tournaments. And United States going to maybe stick to their guns here a little bit. Nomod 2, a pick that we discussed as being something that it felt like they needed to opt into in this bracket reset match, and are going to do that. They won the DT1, so they're going to say, let's just stick with the mechanics picks. Let's go 260 BPM capping mechanics. And again, it's forcing perhaps what some people may consider the weaker portions of South Korea's roster into the lobby. Now, the scary part, of course, is how well South Korea has been performing on the DT2 in this pool, and the fact that they did set, I believe, a pretty good Nomod 2 score against Germany. But United States is a ridiculously strong tapping roster, and I do like this. Again, it's another adaptation, changing things up from the first set that could prove a valuable one if the way the adaptation to the DT1 went is anything to go by.
Yeah, I think the problem is, of course, that South Korea, they still have good speed players, right? This team was built with Amamiya Kokoro, Allegrissimo, and Fragrance of Page in mind, and letting them do their thing on the maps where they can, and then filling in the gaps afterwards, which is why you have players like Doomsday Fanboy, players like Parisia coming in for this map, why you sometimes have players like Restia coming in to fill in for maps where no one else is comfortable as well, right? So, of course, there are good speed players on this South Korean roster. They are not in the spotlight as often, but they are still absolutely able to shred, and it's why you saw the United States ban out the DT2 in this match. They will go into this Nomod 2, I think, largely because this is much higher BPM. It's a lot burstier rather than the kind of stamina focus that you have in the DT2, and those are very different skill sets. They're related, they're both tapping, but they are very different skill sets, and some players are very, very good at high BPM bursts, but not as good as kind of mid-range speed BPM stamina. And the United States has a lot of players that fit that bill. Pez and Taquito in particular, both very, very good high BPM burst players. Not quite as strong on the speed stamina, but very, very good high BPM burst players. And I think South Korea kind of finds themselves in the opposite boat. Doomsday Fanboy in particular, very, very good high BPM stamina player. Not quite as strong on the high BPM burst. Same goes for Parisia. Obviously still very good on them. You see both of them holding solid accuracy. Doomsday Fanboy still on the FC. Parisia with a couple of early breaks. Doomsday Fanboy now also finding that break. But Fragrance of Page still holding on to the full combo for South Korea. It's the only one left on their side. The United States now also only down to one full combo as Taquito and Flamestare both find those breaks. And there goes Pez on a couple of slider breaks and then a miss afterwards. And Fragrance of Page once again is the only one holding the FC in the lobby, and it is for South Korea. The United States on the back foot going into the second half of this match. The score lead still barely on their side, but soon to change.
This will go over if Fragrance of Page can continue holding into this next section of the map. And it is, of course, worth noting, that against Germany, he was the player to lead South Korea to that victory with a full combo on that occasion, one of 2 full combos alongside Kriller on the other side. So Fragrance of Page has already proven he can FC this map in a match, and that's exactly what we're talking about, being capable of those scores and then putting them up in the match setting. And both of those skills that he has developed and has shown. And now that lead over to South Korea by just under 100,000, with Page holding the FC, Doomsday Fanboy on the backing combo. Pez and Taquito building back up as best as they can, ready to pounce if South Korea falters in the last quarter of this map. But Fragrance of Page looking so strong once again. Doomsday Fanboy backing him up quite well, as is Parisia now, really excelling at getting some combo back in this back section. And it's 300k just like that, with United States falling by the wayside. Taquito unable to build back up the way he would have needed to. Fragrance Page going to drop another FC on this map because, of course, he is. And there's the breakpoint. 400,000, the eventual margin of victory for South Korea. Felt a lot closer than that for most of the map, but when you've got an FC and the backing scores that they had, that's just what was going to happen. And we talked about this feeling like a map that the United States probably just had to pick just to see what would happen on it. And of course, this was the danger that they opened themselves up to. Fragrance of Page just doing more Fragrance of Page things. Starting to feel like worst HR player last year. He was always the player that we were talking about. Oh, he'll just come in and FC stuff. And now that's Fragrance of Page's job, and he has taken up that mantle with no apparent degree of difficulty.
Yeah, and it's kind of rough for the United States as well, because even though, yeah, Pez and Taquito have pretty good scores, right? 615k, 538k, those are good scores. 465k from Flamestare is still better than Parisia's score, but Doomsday Fanboy is also outscoring both Pez and Taquito on the side of South Korea with 644k himself. And that's part of the reason why it's a little unfortunate. These other players on the side of South Korea, especially the speed players, Doomsday Fanboy and Parisia, kind of get overshadowed by Fragrance of Page, who just comes in for every map and puts on some absolutely ridiculous scores on pretty much every pick. So the United States, trying to find maps, I think, where he is less likely to be able to put up those ridiculous scores. I think the Nomod 2 pick is good in that regard, but unfortunately, as you said, it just didn't happen. There's always that potential for one of those pop-off scores, and yeah, the full team consistency just not quite working out for the United States on that one, despite some solid scores as well for their side. Now, South Korea going back into this Nomod 4, the original song by Akiri, cooked up for the 3-digit World Cup this year. Thank you very much to Akiri there. We did see this get played last time around as well, and surprise, surprise, it was a win for South Korea. Not many maps that weren't in that first set of Grand Finals. It was 7-1 after all, but you definitely expect the Nomod Tech pick to go South Korea's way. It was Allegrissimo to top score this map in the first set of Grand Finals with 544k. Amamiya Kokoro second up, and Fragrance of Page actually bottom scoring for South Korea. We'll see if there's any roster swaps here for either team, but it doesn't look like it, as Pez Taquito, actually Flamestare coming in for Caleb on the side of the United States here, the only roster swap for either of these teams, looking to put up a slightly better score and potentially help the United States get to victory. This was only a win by 191,000 points for South Korea, so if the USA can find an extra 200k somewhere in this map, they will be able to bring it home, or should be able to bring it home, assuming South Korea doesn't find some extra score themselves.
Yeah, and to me, it feels like this sort of map always has a high degree of variability in scores. You could go from a 600k one week to a 300k the next week, or vice versa, without really too much thought going into it. It's not the same as, sort of a tapping mechanics map, where if you can play it, you're likely to always get a similar score range. To me, it feels like this sort of map is much more likely to have players, bettering or lowering their scores by more significant margins. So see how it ends up playing out. We'll see if Flamestare is what the United States needed on this pick, and we'll see if Allegrissimo and Amamiya Kokoro can put up those really strong scores again. Though it is Amamiya Kokoro, it's going to be the first to break in the lobby, so the answer to that perhaps could be a negative. United States, the Triple FC intact thus far, about a third of the way in. They will establish a small early advantage. We'll see how long the Triple FC can last, and the answer is not very long, as Pez breaks on the Buzz Slider. And so 2 FCs against 2. Amamiya Kokoro recovering, though, so that score should stick and come back down towards South Korea here, all else remaining equal.
Oh, there's a break for Taquito. Another one come through for Pez. And now it's just Flamestare left alone here against the double FC for Allegrissimo and Fragrance of Page. That build-up section really, really tricky with the Accel, Decel, high-spacing streams. This is 214 BPM as well. These are not slow streams. Those are very mechanically intense. Flamestare able to get through them, but another break comes through for Pez, and it's this double FC for South Korea, still going strong. There goes Flamestare on the transition into the 1/3 section, but Allegrissimo and Fragrance of Page both still holding strong, and this is just absolute domination from South Korea. Already 350k up by the time Allegrissimo finds the drop. Fragrance of Page will find one not too shortly afterwards. But it's just not going to matter. It just will not change a thing for the United States on this pick. Less than a quarter of the map to go, and 380k in favor of South Korea. And this Nomod 4 pick, once again, working out very, very well for the Korean roster. Big improvement from last time around as well. Their team score 1.4 million last time, and the United States would have beaten South Korea's old score. Not to be outdone, South Korea also beating their old score.
1.9 million is a crazy team score on this map. That is a 500,000 point improvement, with 300k of that coming on Fragrance of Page alone. As mentioned, the variability of scores on this type of map can work both for and against you, and for South Korea, it definitely worked for them there. That's a crazy level of improvement for Fragrance of Page, and Allegrissimo and Amamiya Kokoro both beating their old scores as well. Allegrissimo by, 115k, Amamiya Kokoro by a slightly less incredible 30k, but still, job done there to South Korea. And that is a quick breakpoint and consolidation thereof to start this match off already. Now 3-1 South Korea, and it's only one break point. It is only the one break point, but if you're watching this and you're thinking about the United States, maybe a little bit of doubt is going to start to creep in early, because this match can start to feel like the first set of this grand final in a very big hurry if you're not careful. Already giving up a breakpoint on something that it felt like you may have come in as being favored on, and really not being super competitive on a map that it felt like should have been pretty close. 431k at a Nomad 4 is a pretty big deficit in grand finals when none of the scores are all that high, so you start to get a little worried fast. However, the United States do have in their pocket the one map that they were able to win last week. That is this Hidden 2, Black Magic. This was the only point they put up last week, so if they're going to find solace anywhere, if they're going to find a little bit of confidence in some pick or other in this pool, it is going to be the other tech map in the top half of the map pool. This one, a little more of a density challenge, a little lower BPM, a different style of tech, but this was where the United States found their only success last week. And I won't mention the margin of victory, because that won't leave nearly as much confidence as you might otherwise have in the United States on this map. Suffice to say, it was a pick that they won, so they're going to pick it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you said, the one map that they were able to take against South Korea last time around. It is not a map that you might expect the United States to pick into South Korea, given that it is hidden tech, but it worked last time around. And this is the one thing that worked in the first set of grand finals for the United States when they played last week. So I do like the pick. There's a couple of other maps that are somewhat similar to this left in the pool, because I think at this point you start thinking, okay, well, all the speed is gone, except for DT4, but that's not really speed. It's a lot more aim control, finger control, kind of tech DT. So where do you go from here is kind of the next thought process, right? Because there's a lot of gimmick left in this pool for South Korea. As for the United States, not any speed left, so kind of start to think, where do you go after this? And I think cross that bridge when you come to it for the United States. Get some points on the board, try and take back a break point here on the next pick for South Korea, and then look into the next pick after this one. It is going to be the first appearance for 80 Nuggets. Caleb, Bracket C bracket for the US. Ethan Trix and Taquito also in on this one, up against Allegrissimo, Amamiya Kokoro, and Fragrance of Page on this Hidden 2. Lots of slider tech in the first half, and then the second half, a lot more focused on flow aim in this map. 181 BPM, high spacing flow aim.
And US did a good job of just having combo at various points in this map, right? You know, they never built up like a gigantic lead, but it was a pick that they were able to get an advantage in and just hold on to it. So we'll see if the same thing can happen again here the second go around. The score I'm looking at is Amamiya Kokoro dropping only a 354k last week. Generally speaking, a very strong tech player. So we'll see if he can improve on that. Meanwhile, United States, all three players performed pretty well. Nobody really stood out as we kind of have expected of this roster. We'll see if anybody can, raise their level and make that lead a little more comfortable this time, because getting this map again would be a big boon for the USA in this reset match here. Already a couple early breaks. Allegrissimo and Amamiya Kokoro to fall, as does Ethan Trix, but it is Cal, it is Taquito to hold the full combos. Matching only is Fragrance of Page, as there are misses aplenty from those other members of South Korea. United States off to a good start here, exactly what the doctor ordered. Gonna head that lead up over 100,000 points, but there is a break from Caleb, and now you got a 1v1. It's Fragrance of Page versus Taquito. Scary situation. Taquito, a masterful hidden tech player, though. We'll see how long he can keep this up against the opposite number, who has been the MVP of the early stage of this match so far. Fragrance of Page matching the FC of Taquito and keeping this lead kind of in check.
Oh, there goes everyone except for Amamiya Kokoro. I think that's a full 5-way reset, except for Amamiya Kokoro on that last pattern right before the break. We'll see the combos as they come out. Ethan Trix also hitting it, but down about 250 combo compared to Amamiya Kokoro. So the score lead will start to go back the way of South Korea. Luckily for the United States, that full combo on Fragrance Page also dropping alongside Taquito's. So things staying relatively even here, as we see resets for most of the lobby there. And it's just, again, that 250 or so combo advantage for Amamiya Kokoro now going into the flow aim section here at the end. And Ethan Trix, I think, needing to hold to keep this on their side. There goes Fragrance Page, there goes Amamiya Kokoro, and now the United States likely in the clear going into the ending. 190k and climbing in their favor as Ethan Trix continues to hold this big combo, continues to outmatch Allegrissimo, and continues to clutch up at the end of the map for the United States.
It'll be a very, very late drop there from Ethan Trix, but no harm done to the lead. And United States now doubles their map win total from the first set, putting their second point on the board, remaining just the single break point down. And that was exactly what they needed in kind of the same way, right? They got an early lead, held on to that lead the rest of the way through, maintained some combo into the ending when very few others could. Shout out to Ethan Trix there, though he did actually bottom score for the team. His combo was incredibly important in maintaining the advantage. A one miss only for Cal, two misses for Taquito, top scoring at 548k. And, just not quite there for any of the members of the South Korean team, and that will be a point that United States can take a little confidence away from, perhaps going forward on their own picks through the match. South Korea quickly, not to be deterred, gonna head back into another of their own picks from last week. It is Kate Sith. They picked this last time. They won it to close out the match, and so they're saying, let's just run that back, because it's not gonna not work.
Yeah. Quadruple A and Umeboshi Chasuke on this one, Kate Sith. It is, well, if you can hear the song, you can probably figure it out. It's hard rock, gimmicky alt-style flow aim and aim control, plus quite a lot of finger control in this map. Lots of changing beat snap divisors to 1/3 and 1/6 in this, couple of 1/8s here and there, and of course a lot of really tricky stream flow aim and aim control in between on this map. You add hard rock to that, it just makes the aim control that much more difficult. It makes the accuracy that much more difficult to achieve on the finger control sections as well. And so everybody tends to have a somewhat tough time getting good accuracy on this map. Top ACK in the lobby last time around was 96.78 from Allegrissimo. And South Korea likely looking to keep that sort of score line intact. It was Allegrissimo with 470k last time around to top score the map. Everybody else in about the 300k range or so. So the United States hoping for somebody to find a bit more success, a bit more of a pop-off on this map as we wait for the last few players to join in. Same exact roster once again for South Korea here. The United States running Flamestare, Pez, and Taquito this time rather than Boshiman. It's a bit of an interesting swap considering Boshiman did top score the map for them last time around, but potentially just not quite feeling it as well. And, well, things can change after a week of practice. Some people do a lot better with that extra week of practice than others. Some people just jive with the map more after a little bit more attempts on it throughout the week. So you never know exactly what the team sheet looks like. And now the United States hoping this roster swap will earn them a break point on this Hard Rock 2.
Yeah, personally, not a huge fan of not having Boshi in for this. I really feel like taking out the player that top scored it last time seems a little questionable, to my not quite expert opinion, but hey, we'll see how it goes. They have all broken already, so no FCs left for United States. Allegrissimo, Fragrance of Page holding for South Korea, and the lead will go their way once they catch things up here. And we'll see how they can build these couple of full combos through the first third of the map. Allegrissimo, Fragrance of Page holding as best they can. It is Taquito, the only one with any meaningful combo in the United States, as Pez finds another miss. So does Amia Kokoro to trade, but it's the Fragrance of Page break that's going to be a little more meaningful. Now it's Allegrissimo on the only FC, and Taquito not that far behind. Flamesteer holding a solid combo as well, so the lead should go over to the United States here without South Korea having backing combo.
Yeah, and that lack of backing combo is really hurting them as the United States continues to hold on to solid scores through the middle of this map. The score lead now just about to come back their way. Taquito almost matching Allegrissimo on the high combos for both of these teams. Taquito on the reverse choke, Allegrissimo on the FC. We get into the next little bit of finger control that this map has to offer with a lot of these buzz sliders, plus some changing beat snap divisors, more of the really tricky flowing, and Allegrissimo goes down for South Korea. The United States still holding. It's a three-way wipe for South Korea. Flamesteer, the only one to trade on the side of the US, and by God, they may have done it. Taquito and Pez still holding, and this lead's already up above 150k for the United States. Pez and Taquito putting on heroics here halfway through. Taquito will finally go down, but it is Pez to still hold on to nearly 800 combo going into the last quarter of this map, and the United States looking far better on this in the bracket reset than they did the first time around. Finally, a break comes through for Pez, but there's just no combo. Amamiya Kokoro and Flamesteer matching. Flamesteer will go down, but I just don't think it matters going into the end here. It's a 200,000 score lead, and that's another three-way wipe for South Korea, and that will be a break point for the United States. They are going to find success where they found defeat last week, where South Korea closed out the match last time around. The United States will be able to take it as a breakpoint.
And this is just a crazy improvement from the United States on this pick. They did not even get a million team score on this map a week ago, and now they're going to be getting to just shy of 1.5 million. That is a 500,000 point increase from 1 week to the next on this map, with every member taking a huge increase. And again, just the team score. Taquito with the top score at just shy of 600k, but Pez and Flamesteer putting up solid performances as well. South Korea put up almost the exact same score as they did last week, but it's hard to anticipate the opposing squad taking that kind of improvement, and that's a big one for the United States. Their first break point of the grand final, and it ties the match up at 3-3. On a map that I don't know that anybody really gave them much of a chance on. I know I certainly felt that it was more likely we would see last week's outcome again than anything like this.
Yeah, that's a very solid improvement and a really crucial breakpoint for the United States. If you don't take that breakpoint, you have to find it somewhere else. Otherwise, South Korea, they can just win their own picks and win the tournament. No extra work required, no tiebreaker required if that happens. So the United States very, very happy about that one. Now going into the Fremont 4. This is again a map we saw last week. It is again a map that the United States lost, of course. They only won the Hidden 2 last time around. This one was still particularly close. It was a 150k score lead, but the team scores were both at or above 2 million for these teams. So that's not a huge percentage of the overall team score, right? An extra 150k is the difference between Pez getting 500k and Pez getting 650k. So that can happen with 1 week's practice, right? Or you sub in somebody who's a little bit more comfortable on the map with an extra week of practice, as we saw in the Hard Rock 2, Takedo going from not playing to taking Boshiman's spot, who was the top scorer for the USA last week on that Hard Rock 2, and absolutely popping off, getting the top score near 600k, with both Pez and Flamestar improving their scores by nearly 200k each. So this extra week of practice for the United States definitely paying off, and this bracket reset looking a lot closer than the first round of Grand Finals so far. Let's see if that continues to be the case on this Fremont 4, as, again, this was one of the closer maps last weekend. It was one of the highest scoring maps last weekend, so an extra week of practice on this, we could see some very, very high team scores.
Yeah, you've got a lot of good snap, aim, and aim control players, and this map kind of throws a lot of that at you. So between these two rosters, you're going to have a lot of people who are very, very comfortable with this skill set. And obviously, as you said, the score last week goes to show how true that was. Then, Fragrance of Page dropping the Nomod full combo, Amamiya Kokoro dropping 800k with Hidden, Takedo and Ethan Trix going the Overmod, Hidden on both of them, 768k, 730k respectively. And, you know, the Hard Rock players are kind of the sacrificial lambs. They were pretty similar scores, only 60k apart on Allegrisimo and Pez, who played this with Hard Rock last week. And, you know, this is just one where you can flip it with literally one player performing better, as you said. So there is not a huge margin that needs to be made up this time around. You fix a miss, you fix a slider break. Ethan Trix with the one slider break, with the slider break play, I can't remember if it was only one or more last week. So the little things that you can fix in a week's time could be huge on this one, as we see everything identical to a week ago. Looks like the no-fill didn't load in on Fragrance Page, but doesn't really matter anyway. And it's just going to be a matter of whether or not South Korea can recreate their score from last week, whether the United States can improve on their score from last week, perhaps. And that could send this from a South Korea point to a United States point, just like that. So very excited to see, like you said, one of the closest maps they played last week. And starting off with an early break there from Mr. Kokoro, but Pez training it out at the very start as well.
And into the first somewhat difficult section in this map. Again, this was a map where we saw really, really high team scores last time around, but there goes Allegrisimo. Break on the Hard Rock for South Korea, and now it's the reverse choke for Amamiya Kokoro, the FC for Fragrance of Page on the Nomod, versus the double hidden FC for the United States, and the reverse choke on the Hard Rock for Pez. And the United States looking better on this one once again than last time around. That said, another break comes through for Pez. So combos mostly evened out a little bit in favor of South Korea, in fact. So the score lead should start to come back their way ever so slowly. It's not going to be quick. It's going to take quite a while with just this little bit of combo advantage. But another break for Pez will give even more of that over. There goes Allegrisimo, though. That trade, crucial for the United States to maintain this score and combo lead with the double FC. Still going strong. There goes Amamiya Kokoro, and now it's just Fragrance of Page on the Nomod versus this double FC on the Hiddens for Takedo and Ethan Trix. And Aaron, maybe the United States doesn't need an extra 150k. Maybe they just need a couple extra misses from the South Korean side. Ethan Trix will find the break himself, but it's just not going to matter here at the end. Takedo still going strong on the FC. Fragrance of Page matching, but with the hidden mod multiplier, with the extra little bit of score for the United States this time around. They are going to be able to take that map, and it's a straight up reversal of the team scores from last weekend.
This is a totally different United States than we saw a week ago. I mean, they looked so completely out of sorts, just back on their heels, beaten soundly map after map last time. And now they have fixed a lot of the problems that they were finding. They have sorted out a lot of the breaks, and they've improved their scores, and perhaps a little bit of a downgrade on a couple of the South Korean performances. But even then, the United States, dropping a 2.1 million here, that would have won them this map last week as well. So they are showing that they are capable of getting to the level that South Korea is on and has been on. And as I mentioned this earlier, but it has always felt like the United States country-based teams are so strong with momentum. If you let them get a few points, they can run with that through matches. So we'll have to see what South Korea can do to slow it down. And what they're going to try to do is pick a map that was banned against them last week with the Hard Rock 1. They were not allowed to play this against the United States in the first set. And they're going to get it today, and we'll see if the United States can be made to pay for leaving that open for them this time around with that Hard Rock 1, aim consistency option. South Korea is so well known for this skill set. Let's see if it remains the case here.
I am a little surprised to see this as opposed to something like, well, what is left? I mean, the DT4 is left up, the Fremont 2 is left up, the Fremont 3 is left up. The one argument I can see for going aim consistency here, Nomod 1, Hard Rock 1, Hidden 1, Fremont 1, versus going some of the more control-focused maps like the Fremont 2 and the Fremont 3, is that on Hard Rock 1 in particular, the United States, they have good Hard Rock players, but I think a lot of their better aim players prefer Hidden. So keeping them Hard Rock only may be a solid pick strategy for South Korea here. That said, it's not like that stopped the U.S. on DT1, right? They were still able to take that. So mod preference is not as big of a deal at this level as it is in some other rank ranges or for some other teams. The United States, not as good of an aim consistency team as South Korea, generally speaking. So we'll see how this ends up for both of these teams. And if South Korea does end up winning this by a pretty convincing margin, I think that opens up a lot of the rest of the pool for them. Definitely the Nomod 1, maybe the Fremont 1. Of course, the Hidden 1 from last weekend still presents itself as a pretty solid pick for South Korea. They were able to win that map as well by 233k last weekend. So I think there's a lot of solid picks that open themselves up if South Korea are able to win this convincingly. If they don't, however, and the United States left this up because they are now really comfortable on it instead, then South Korea finds themselves in a bit of a pickle as, well, they're in a bit of a pickle right now as well, with one of their players accidentally leaving the lobby or disconnecting or something. Not quite sure.
Guessing an accidental lobby leave based on the timing, but it's hard to say for 100% sure. But we'll get that sorted out and get into the map shortly enough. But yes, I was thinking, as they picked into this Hard Rock 1, like, they have literally just 3 of the most clearly delineated map picks set up for them. If this one goes well, do South Korea. So they are really hoping that it does indeed end up being a very favored skill set to them, as it seems on paper like it might be. This match gets very interesting if the United States can win this, or at least keep it very close, because the confidence level in the Nomod 1, Hidden 1, Fremont 1 would not grow to the level that it might if South Korea is able to win this convincingly. So gonna have to keep that in mind and be considering strategy here very closely as we move through this map and into really the serious late stages of this match, as there will be 2 picks left per team after this one. once we eventually get into it. We'll find out a lot about, I think, how the rest of this match is going to go.
All right. Well, hopefully the connection issues for Allegrisimo cooperate here. As finally it seems like he is stably in the lobby and ready to go for this Hard Rock one. So you can finally load into this one. This is another custom map in the pool by Knowledge King. Just some classic basic aim consistency and flow aim streams as well at 200 BPM. Now it's not an easy map. It's still 8 stars basically. So still a very, very difficult pick, just straightforward in nature rather than extremely tricky like a lot of the other maps that we have seen so far in this bracket reset. Definitely one of the most straightforward picks in the pool. A couple of early misses coming through here for Taquito and Parisia. Fragrance Page, Allegrisimo, Pez, and Flamestare still holding on to the full combos in this intro section. There's a chain miss for Flamestare on that space stream, but this early on, it's not going to matter too much. It's going to tank the accuracy a little early on. It's going to give a slight combo lead over to South Korea, but you just expect a couple of those kinds of chain misses for each player because of how ridiculously spaced these streams are in this map.
And Flamestare continuing to struggle on those space patterns as another break heading on that little space quint into the slider. Not what you want to see for the United States. South Korea going to take a bit of a lead. That's a couple hundred combo advantage. Down goes Taquito as well into this Ki. Flamestare, Allegrisimo, Parisia, though, are going to trade back a couple more misses into the Ki. And it is Fragrance of Page versus Pez. Some incredibly strong mechanics players, but Pez falls. And guess who else could it be but Fragrance of Page, holding on to the lone full combo in the lobby. 1/3 through the map, through the Ki time. 700 combo to the good for him. And we'll see what kind of advantage this can help build for South Korea as their lead is out to 130,000 points. Not a lot of combo being built up. It's 200 to 300 on a couple of other members, Parisia, Pez, and Taquito. Allegrisimo and Flamestare just a bit farther behind, but all eyes are going to be on Fragrance of Page as we near the halfway mark of the map. It feels like they have been so often through this match thus far. He has been the subject of all focus for players, spectators, and commentators alike, it feels, for many a map, and this is proving to be no exception so far. 1,000 combo, the target in his eyes, and he grasps it next, and will continue to hold the full combo, will continue to lead the way. South Korea's lead over 200,000 points.
Well, seems like this was banned for good reason by the United States last weekend. We are only 2/3 of the way into the map. It's not over quite yet, but it's certainly looking to be heading that way for South Korea here. 245,000 points up, 2/3 of the way in. Full combo still going on Fragrance Page, and no real fighting combos for the United States. Pez and Taquito do have big combo, but one of those is matched by Parisia. And of course, the full combo for Fragrance Page is continuing to build this score lead for South Korea. There goes the entire bottom row, as now it's just Pez and Fragrance Page holding any combo during this breakdown section. The streams and jumps combined at this high of a star rating are really, really tough for just about anyone to hit. And it's gonna pretty much seal it up, I think. 330k in favor of South Korea with just a quarter of the map left to go. And I don't think there's that much score left on this play for Pez. There's hardly that much score left for Fragrance of Page on the full combo. So that is going to do it. It's going to be the point for South Korea. The question now is, how many style points do they earn? Fragrance of Page, all eyes in the top left corner as Pez also finds the drop, and any chance of a United States comeback is pretty much taken away now. Just the question of, will he FC or not? This would be an absolutely ridiculous FC. This map, no, not going to find the FC. Does find a slider break on a jump there just before the end of the map. But 930k on this is an absolutely ridiculous score and is going to easily carry his team to victory with that play.
Yeah, and what's interesting, of course, is that they really did need all of it. It's only a 419,000 point victory when all is said and done, because you have to look and see, you know, Pez at that 600k, Taquito at the 470k. This would have been a very, very close map if Fragrance of Page hadn't just done what he just did. Unfortunately, he seems to just be able to be relied upon to put up scores like that when his team needs them. And man, oh man, that is a heck of a score. The very sad slider break. 40k, 420k, Parisial, Grisimo, gotta give them their props because they did their jobs as well. But man, oh man, what are you supposed to do about Fragrance's Page? As he is just, almost single-handedly ensuring South Korea can't fall behind in this match because they could just pick Frigates of Page maps the rest of the way with their 2 remaining picks that they may have. United States, well, what are the options left here now as the pick goes over to them? 4-4 the score, tied up. It's feeling a little constricted at this point, is this pool, with what is left.
There's, of course, the 3 remaining AIM maps, Nomod 1, Hidden 1, Fremont 1. There is the Precision Hard Rock in Hard Rock 3. I don't think any of those are the pick for the United States, right? Fragrance of Page, I think, on those maps is going to be a force to be reckoned with, as we just saw in the Hard Rock 1. So likely not wanting to pick any of those. DT4, they banned out last weekend, so I don't think you want to pick those either, which leaves 2 maps left in the pool. And 2 picks for the United States, Fremont 2 and Fremont 3. Looking at it from a strategic point of view, that's what the pool looks like for the US. Often that ends up being the case, and we are going to see the Fremont 2 picked for them. Of course, team scores on the sheet can always look different, but based on how the match has gone, and based on the most of the other picks being relatively aim-focused or a previous ban for the United States, definitely seems like the Fremont 2 and the Fremont 3 are the remaining options, and they are going to go with Esoteric Surgery by Gojira. This is a custom map by Monsieur Sebas. 192 BPM flow aim, marathon length Fremont pick here. 5 minutes of some just absolutely ridiculous gimmicky stream flow aim. This is super high spacing and very unconventional flow aim with how often the spacing changes. Quite a lot of cut streams in this map as well. It can be really, really tough to maintain consistency on something like this for 5 minutes when the map continues to throw different sorts of patterns over and over at you again.
The scary thing to me about this this pick, of course, not that there was any pick at this stage of the match that wasn't scary, is that the one tapping map that South Korea won against the United States the first time they played in the winners final was the Nomod 2 that round. So perhaps, a slightly lower BPM stamina map, good for that side, especially considering they would then go on to win the DP2 against the United States last week in the grand final. So again, stamina flow tapping going well for them, and this means also that you're not stuck taking Fragrance of Page out. Now, all that aside, United States, back to them, a very, very good tapping team, have shown themselves time and time again. They have good first tapping players. They have reasonably good stamina flow players as well, which the overlap of those 2 circles might actually, or the Venn diagram of those 2 skill sets might actually just be a circle for the USA roster. But either way, this is like toss-up-y, but I guess the aim maps would feel super South Korea favored. So, like you said, the Fremont 2 and the Fremont 3 kind of felt like the United States' only options here. I maybe would have rather seen the Fremont 3 first, maybe, but like either way, it was going to be difficult. So in we're going to go and we'll see what happens. It's going to be Kokoro hidden, Alagrismo Hard Rock, Fragrance Page, Nomod on the other side, Taquito hidden, of course, Flamesteer Hard Rock, and Pez on the Nomod for the USA. Not quite a must-win at this stage, but it kind of feels a little bit like that with what is left in the pool and the way the teams are playing. So we'll see how it goes. Early breakout Grissimo, not much else to be said. Pez with the break in the first 20 combo, but small lead to the United States. It's 5 minutes long. Like, we're going to be here for a while. There's going to be a lot of combo. There's going to be a lot of score. There's going to be a lot of crazy flow patterns, and you're just going to kind of have to sit back and relax and enjoy the show because this one's really not going to be done until it's done.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while that we are here together for this Fremont 2. A couple of early breaks, though, for South Korea. There goes Amamiya Kokoro. There goes Alagrisimo. There goes Flamesteer and Taquito as well. And Pez finding the break at the end of that first section also, and now it's just Fragrance of Page on the full combo once again. Overall, better scores for the United States, just barely with how their 3 members are doing. However, Fragrance of Page on that full combo is making the difference right now for South Korea. And we have seen him be the reason they have won so many maps so far in this bracket reset. Trying to do it once again and put on some more heroics on this Fremont 2 pick. The United States looking consistent, looking solid across all 3 members, but the score is just not quite high enough to compare to the full combo. There's a couple of breaks to come through for Allegrisimo and Flamester, both the Hard Rock players breaking on the 1/3 triangle jumps there, as Taquito continuing to match Amamiya Kokoro. Pez a little bit behind Fragrance of Page on the Nomod. And now a third of the way in, the score lead has grown to almost 100K. It's still not quite there. Another break comes through for Flamester, and that is going to push it up above that 100K mark. Just barely a combo lead for South Korea, ignoring the FC, but that full combo continuing to help build that score lead for them. There finally goes Fragrance Page. Amamiya Kokoro also breaking on the hidden, and suddenly opportunity presents itself to the United States. Pez and Taquito still holding the combo where Korea fell short, and they have the opportunity to bring this back to the United States side halfway into the map now, still holding 1,000 combo and 900 for Taquito and Pez. Taquito will finally find the drop on those Axel, D-cell back and forth spacing changing streams, but Pez is able to hold now up above 1,000 combo, the only player with that kind of high combo in the lobby, and the score finally back on the side of the United States. Another break coming through for Allegrisimo, and Fragrance of Page is recovering. Amamiya Kokoro is recovering, but they are matched by Flamester and Taquito mostly, and Pez now the one with the unmatched combo on the side of the United States, trying to build this score lead as much as possible for the United States.
Yeah, this is a very, very clutch performance here from Pez to continue holding the 1,200 plus combo as we're about to hit the 2/3 mark. But he misses on... Oh my god. I mean, I don't want to say he missed on nothing, but he kind of missed on one of the easier patterns we've seen in this map that you could ever possibly miss on. The nerves maybe getting to him a little there, just maybe a little miss-snap, maybe a slight mistap. It's easy enough to do on just about anything. So there goes that advantage. It was a break on the other side from Allegrisimo, not much later though, and it is a combo lead to South Korea, but it's kind of mitigated at this point. Fragrance Page on the biggest combo in the lobby though, which is always somebody to be afraid of. Amamiya Kokoro the 500 combo to match Flamester or Taquito, pick one. Fragrance of Page though, the guy to watch, 200 combo ahead of all the other players, holding meaningful amounts to get into these difficult cut angle streams, into the slider jumps. It's going to be Flamester to break, Amamiya Kokoro to trade, and Fragrance of Page, can he bring back 30K is all it'll need to be. With a 200 combo advantage over Taquito, it should come down, but it's going to be very slow going with Pez recovering. This is not going to South Korea in any speedy fashion as we come sort of nearer the ending. And that score's not going anywhere, especially with that break from Allegrisimo. The United States might just be able to hold on to this. The combined amount of combo on their side, so important. Fragrance Page doing everything he can, but he's almost all alone. He is all alone, but it's Taquito to fall. And now, Fragrance of Page has the opportunity in the ending. Is there combo? Is there time?
It doesn't seem like it. A couple of more of these sliders. It's only 23K in the favor of the United States right now. Pez, I think these extra combos from Taquito and Pez at the end of the map are enough to keep it on their side. And once again, it is the United States with 2 players who are just out ahead enough of the rest of the South Korean roster to keep the point on their side. No standout score on the side of the United States like you have on the side of South Korea, but the team consistency is enough to bring it home. 398K for Flamester, beating out Allegrisimo on the Hard Rock. Taquito beating out Amamiya Kokoro by a good 80K or so on the hidden. And then Pez, yeah, not doing quite as well as Fragrance of Page on the Nomod, but you don't need to. You just need to be able to keep enough score on your team's side to get that point, and that is exactly what they do for the United States. Just barely enough, but a point is a point, and that is 5 on the board for the Americans.
don't know that we would have anticipated that coming into this match. The way the first set of this grand final went, it felt like the United States was just gonna be, you know, a distant second in this tournament. The way if the level of performances were maintained from the first set, but they have improved so much week over week, and it's the United States 2 points away from closing it out and keeping this match dead even. Lost the one break point, got it back. South Korea, though, still feels like they have a couple of picks in reserve here at this stage, and they are going to take one of those right now. It is going to be the hidden one. No surprise, I don't think, to anyone to see them going into this. Of course, a map that they played last week. I believe this was actually a USA pick last week. That South Korea won nonetheless by over 200K as a break point. And that was one where there were no standouts on either side. It was just South Korea being a little bit better across their members on this awkward aim hidden map. And they've kind of staked this territory as their own. They've planted their flag in the aim skill set, and we'll see if they can defend it here after winning the Hard Rock one. We'll see if they can do it again with the hidden one to tie the match back up at 5 points apiece.
Well, this certainly looked like a good pick last week for them. It was almost the map that they closed it out with. I believe this was picked by the United States last week, in fact, trying out the aim and seeing, nope, that does not work. Amamiya, Kokoro, Alagrismo, Frigance Page, all above 450k, none of them above 500k though. So distinct sort of map from what we have come to expect from the South Korean roster, with one standout score for the team. Not the case on this one last time around, but more than enough to win, in fact, by 233k against the United States, who had one player above that 400k mark and nobody above 450k. So complete team overperformance by South Korea, or rather just all of them performing better than the entire United States roster last time around. We are going to see pretty much the same roster for both of these teams. Ethan Trix, Taquito, and 80 Nuggets. Caleb in for the United States. Fragance Page, Alagrismo, and Amamiya Kokoro, the same roster once again for South Korea, to try and repeat the performance they had last week, or one-up themselves with that extra week of practice. Let's see how this one goes, as South Korea now on a must-win pick, actually, as the United States still Fremont 3 open, currently 5-4. If South Korea loses this pick, the United States goes up match point with next pick to close it out. So this is, in some regard, a must-win for South Korea, which is not what we thought we would be looking at when we came into this match. Based on last week, it looked so one-sided for South Korea. The USA just looked lost, but this time around they have found their way and made this match into a game state where South Korea are backs almost against the wall here.
And we'll see if the pressure gets to them at all, or if they can just continue to, stay the course and tie the match back up 5 apiece. It's a couple early matching breaks. Fragrance of Page, Alagrismo, and there goes, okay, well, there's Amamiya Kokoro, there goes Ethan Trix, there goes Cal, and it is Taquito, the only FC in the lobby, the most tenured player out of anyone in this match. It feels like in these high-pressure, high-leverage tournament situations, and perhaps he can be the one to make the breakthrough possible for the United States in this match, as he is the only full combo. He is the biggest combo by some amount here, about 400 above anyone else, and he is the architect of a just about 20,000 score lead for the USA. How long can you hold, Taquito? What kind of combo can you maintain in this map? The answer is not much, and not much longer, as there he falls. But it's matched by Frigance Page. Down goes Ethan Trix as well. And it is Alagrismo versus Caleb, and a near negligible difference between the teams.
Basically no difference at this point, but that's a full team wipe for the United States, and that actually brings the score lead over to the side of South Korea. It's disaster, as the three-way wipe with multiple misses for every player causes the score to go back to the side of South Korea. Fragance of Page and the rest of South Korea just barely holding any combo during that section is enough to generate a 50k score lead, as the United States just could not hold any combo during that part of the map, and South Korea able to just clutch up during that section, 3/4 of the way in now, 60k score lead in their favor, combo lead in their favor by a collective 300 or 400 at this point. It doesn't look like much when you compare the members, but overall, it's like one member has a 300 or 400 combo lead. That does go down a little bit here, but another break comes through for two members on the United States, Ethantrix and Taquito, both finding the drops. There goes Caleb, there goes Allegrisimo, and it's Fragrance of Page to hold at the end of the map. Not that it matters, because South Korea already had the win in the bag when the United States dropped that full team reset there near the end of the map, and it is going to be very similar score lines to what we saw last week. This time around, Taquito popping off, finding what is, couldn't quite see there whether it was top score of the lobby or not, pretty damn close regardless. Yeah, a couple of 100 points ahead of Fragrance of Page for top score in the lobby, but just not going to matter, as this time around it's the team consistency for South Korea, Allegrisimo and Amamiya Kokoro pulling up with the 440k each and outclassing the United States with just a better 3-person roster on that map.
Yeah, this map playing out relatively similarly overall as it did last week, with just no real singular standout scores. Taquito bettering his teammates about 140k, but even still, but just South Korea with the better overall team consistency. And, you know, we spoke at length about the United States maybe attempting to farm some combo in that map last week, attempting to till the fields, but South Korea victorious last week and appears to have assaulted the fields behind them. United States once again unable to till those infertile fields a week later, and it has remained a victory for South Korea back-to-back weeks, successful on the point. One map now remains, one pick per team as the score hits that all-important 5-5 mark. It's the United States with the pick at the tied score, which means that South Korea will have last pick no matter which way it goes. It'll either be a match point in their favor if they can achieve a break point, or it will be defending against a match point if the United States can win their pick here. Ball is in the United States' court for the time being. We discussed it feeling like perhaps the Fremont 3 here to be the choice. Other options not seeming so great. And indeed, Fremont 3, you don't want to say it feels like they were kind of backed into a corner with this one, but this really does feel like the only map they could reasonably be expected to select here, considering the alternatives of Nomod 1, Fremont 1, and Hard Rock 3. And we will get this anti-mod pick once more. Circle size 5, approach rate 8.3. Some funky streams, some easy potential here, and a very interesting setting for a team's final pick of the entire tournament.
This is one of those that we did not see last weekend, but it is relatively similar in map structure to the Fremont 2. A lot of really tricky flow aim once again. This time around a little bit lower in BPM, down at 180. A little bit higher in circle size, so some smaller circles for especially the Hard Rock players. Goes up to CS 6.5 with the Hard Rock. And a little bit lower in the approach rate as well. Nomod and Hidden players both going to be on that AR 8.3. And with how high the spacing is on this, potentially we could see an easy for somebody on this map. I wouldn't be too surprised, but I do think it's more likely we see Nomod as opposed to easy on this map. So we'll see if anyone does take the proverbial plunge and go for the easy on this map, whether they've put in the extra practice time to be solid on that super low AR. Would be AR 4.15 with easy, but at CS 2.5, spacing goes down quite a bit. It becomes a lot easier mechanically in exchange for a far higher reading difficulty. And it looks like we have the rosters pretty much set up for both teams. It's going to be Fragrance of Page, Amamiya, and Allegrisimo for South Korea, Taquito, Bashiman, and Pez for the United States. If anyone's going to take the easy, it's going to be Bashiman on this one, and the fact that Flamestear is not in and Bashiman is tells me that's probably where they're picking their easy.
And we did see double easy from South Korea against Germany. I will note, they ran Allegrissimo, Hard Rock, Fragrance of Page, and Amamiya Kokoro both ran easy on this in that matchup. Um, Looks like they will. Well, I don't know that
The mods
we
are
might.
not loading.
I think we're getting some Bancho mod bug because this is everybody's favorite bug to see lately, and it is again going to be that double easy. They are going to run that one back. The easy on Bashiman as you expected. Taquito on the Hard Rock, interestingly, with Pez on the Nomod, and Algorithm on the Hard Rock again. So identical mods for South Korea as they ran against Germany in the first match of the Grand Finals week. United States playing it for the first time will run an easy as well. Calculations are automatically included in the overlay, so the score will be accurate as we go through the map. And let's see how this plays out, because this is a big one here. Winner of this map gets the lone match point either team will see in this match.
Yeah, and right now it's looking good for the United States. Taquito on the Hard Rock holding the FC. Bashiman on the Easy holding the FC. Of course, you do still have, I believe, just lower AC FC for Amamiya Kokoro on the Easy on the side of South Korea as well. And Taquito actually finding the break earlier on. My mistake, not quite on the FC anymore. So just the FCs for those Easy players down on the bottom row, as everyone else has broken. Another few misses coming through for Allegrissimo. Pez on the Nomod, matching the combo for Fragrance of Page. And it is just the battle of the easy maniacs here on the bottom row. Amamiya Kokoro and Bashiman still holding those FCs and generating, I believe, the most score for both those teams. There goes Amamiya Kokoro, and this pick looking up for the United States. Still holding the FC for Bashiman, still on a massive recovery for Pez, matching Fragrance of Page up on the top row there for South Korea. And at this point, I don't think there's much that South Korea can do. It is, at this point, almost a 200,000 score lead. A chain miss there for Taquito. Tons of chain misses coming through for him, actually. Brings the score lead down to 120K. And this is a huge team combo for South Korea. It's only 100K in favor of the US, but it's not going down quickly enough for South Korea. And the FC for Bashiman will close out a win for the United States. Huge combo for Pez as well, going into the ending there. And it's a extremely good Hard Rock score for Allegrissimo, but that lack of a full combo on the Easy does South Korea in, and the United States are able to take the point and go up, as you said, to the one match point we will see in this bracket reset.
Man, shades of OWC 2023 there from Bashiman. I tell ya, comes in, clutches up his maps. The guy is so good on the maps that he is known for, the skill sets that he is on the team to cover. He will come in and he will show up and he will lock down some high quality scores. And it will give the United States a chance here. They've gotten one break point in this match after not getting a single one in the first set. Who's to say they can't get another and avoid the tiebreaker scenario? It feels like if you're South Korea, you just pick Nomod 1, you win another AIM map, or Fremont 1, and win another AIM map, and move on to tiebreaker.
Or Hard Rock 3 and win another AIM map.
Or play Hard Rock 3 and win another AIM map. I think it's Fremont 1, actually, but, like, it could realistically be any of those. South Korea's just felt good on AIM in this match. The DT1 notwithstanding, different kind of AIM. But the hidden one, Hard Rock 1, obviously both going. Oh my God, they're picking DT4.
Okay.
Dio, why are they picking DT4 here?
Because the USA banned this last week. Because the USA banned this out last week. They banned out Hard Rock 1 and DT4 against South Korea in the first set of Grand Finals. They are going to call the bluff, so to speak, and say, yeah, this was a real ban, just like the Hard Rock 1, because you did not want to play us on this at all. This isn't some kind of mind game of banning out maps that you can potentially win and saving them for bracket reset, changing the bans, which huge mind games if you do that, but extremely uncommon. And South Korea, I think, should have a very good roster for this. This is 219 BPM. It is Tech, Aim Control, DT. 219 BPM aim control streams with a really heavy tech and high AR reading factor, being AR 10.3. That's not super high AR for these players, but reading AR 10.3 on a tech map is very different from reading AR 10.3 on a Sotarks map, right? Those are two very different things. So your general high AR reading needs to be very good to be comfortable on something like this. And that is why you see no players in the lobby, because everyone is hopping onto the map to adjust to this approach rate before going in here.
This feels so scary. This just feels terrifying. All, you know, like objective factors about the map notwithstanding, the scenario that you're putting yourself in going into a map like this at the very end of a match like this, the pressure is so high, and to do it on a map that fills this particular niche is absolutely mind-boggling. We'll be in for a good one. Also, I do want to note, of course, this is an extremely long DT map. Nearly 3.5 minutes after DT is abnormally long. So you gotta just be so locked in, and you can't let the pressure and the stress get to you at any point. So in we're gonna go, and we're gonna see how the players handle this situation, because it is match point United States to try to shockingly win this bracket reset. Despite the 7-1 loss in the first set, they have made it clear that this is a different United States than we saw 7 days ago, and one map away from a wild bracket reset comeback win here. Even though they are the team from winners, it feels like a little bit of the underdogs at this point coming into this match, and they have proven that they deserve to be here every bit as much as South Korea did. Speaking to Page, I'm Koker, Algoritmo, Flames, Tier, Taquito, and Pez. South Korea trying to force the TB, United States trying to close out the match with a crazy bit of mind games, leaving this up after banning it in that first set.
And so far, it does look pretty good for them. An early break for Pez, the only drop for either team so far, but the accuracy very good for both of these teams, as we see the 3-way versus the 2-way for full combos for both sides right now. South Korea just out ahead by 30K. It's not that much, and as you said, this is a long DT pick. This is 5 minutes and 40 seconds before double time, so closer to almost 4 minutes long with double time. I believe drain time is displayed in the overlay, if I'm correct about that, but it's going to be a long one here, and there's still a long ways to go. We're not even a third of the way into this one. Another break to come through for Taquito on the side of the US, and South Korea now off to the races. 3-way full combo still going strong during the first PI time here. No breaks to come through for them so far. There goes Amamiya Kokoro. There goes Flames Tear to trade, and it's still a 2 FC advantage for South Korea out of the first PI time, almost halfway through this map now, and 183,000 score lead with those 2 FCs still going strong.
Yeah, this is some impressive stuff here from South Korea. To hold a double FC over 1,000 combo halfway through a map like this at this stage of this match is remarkable stuff. Bring it to Page, Algoritmo. Let's see how long they can keep these FCs up, but that lead, Dio, is about to be 300,000 points, and I don't want to say that this map is over, but this map is kind of over, and it's feeling all the more likely that we're going to be seeing that tiebreaker unless something really insane happens in the last third of the map, because South Korea is showing no signs of letting up. Another break there from the entirety of the United States, and that's really just going to do it. This is going to be possibly the most one-sided map of this entire set, and it's going to be the one that forces the tiebreaker.
I need to jump in here for a second. There are no DTFCs on this map, not a single one. The number 2 DT score on the leaderboard is a hidden Night Core play from Nineric with 1250 combo, which Fragrance of Page and Algoritmo have both soundly passed. The number 1 DT play is 1863 combo from Kama with 99.2 accuracy. There goes Fragrance of Page. Algoritmo is still holding this FC. It's all about the style points now here at the end of the map, as Algoritmo rapidly coming up on the number 1 DT play, finally drops the combo just before 1863. But that is generational pop-off for these two players on South Korea on a map that has 0 DTFCs. To put up 800 and 900k for 2 of your players is unreal levels of dominance on this pick. Not a single other score in the lobby above 500k.
That is the definition of clutch factor for South Korea on that map. What we have just seen is nothing short of extraordinary on this pick. A team win of 800,000 score, a 908K, an 825K, all down 6-5, grand finals bracket reset, needing the point to force tiebreaker, needing the point to continue this match onward, and they put on that kind of showing. Unbelievable scenes, cinema levels previously unheard of, and what more could you ask for in the grand finals than bracket reset tiebreaker?
Here we go. It is bracket reset tiebreaker between South Korea and the United States.
Stop me if you've
Bring me
heard this
back
one
to
before.
OWC 2023, man. Here we go again. This time around, it's a very different sort of tiebreaker between these two teams. You have a multi-skill tech mechanics tiebreaker here, an original song by Sugosugi, Zypherath Quick Saloon. Gonna go with that's the pronunciation on that one. Mapped by quite a few people. This is, of course, hosted by Nanami, but is a collab between Nanami and Utwinkle. So these two, when they collab on these tiebreakers, usually very, very solid. Shoutouts as well, of course, to Sugosugi for the banger song. Shoutouts to Spec and Osmi65 for the background, and to Midorijan for the hit sounds on this original tiebreaker. It's very similar to a lot of the other multi-skill set tech tiebreakers that we have seen in tournaments throughout the last several years, really since Uparts started to popularize them back in late 2020. It's a lot of different skill sets. It is primarily tech, but there is still a very heavy mechanics strain on this map. It is on average 210 BPM. That is a variable BPM number, so you can hear the song slow down and speed up throughout. And so different skill sets going to be tested at different points during this map for both of these teams. And that is all done at 8.1 stars. And this is not your average jump map DT1 8.1 stars. This is tech, cut streams, flow, awkward aim, alt map 8.1 stars. It is incredibly difficult in comparison to your typical mechanic picks at this star rating. We talked about star rating on, for example, the Hard Rock 1 being about 8 stars. Well, this is higher than that and with trickier skill sets as well. So this is going to be a very, very difficult tiebreaker that tends to favor the team or the player with the highest skill cap in the lobby. So far, we have seen that be Fragrance of Page, but the team consistency has been with the United States in general throughout that match. And I think the real question is how well will the United States be able to combo through and as a team put up solid scores against a team with what I think most people watching can agree is the highest skill cap player in the tournament in Fragrance of Page.
It's been a riddle that the United States has not really been great at solving over the course of this match, right? Fragrance of Page has led his team to some pretty impressive wins, some very impressive performances. But I think every other factor feels to get so thrown out the window when you come right down to a grand finals bracket reset tiebreaker, because there are so many intangibles that come into play at this stage. You know, you just had Allegrissimo clutch up, you just had Fragrance of Page clutch up on the DT4. Can you see another performance like that come around again? Can they, you know, catch lightning in a bottle twice in a row? On the United States' side, does somebody like Taquito, who's so well known for high star rating, tech, aim control, and some mechanics, maybe does somebody like that show up and pop off? Does Pez show up and pop off? There are so many players who could be opportunistic in a situation like this. Yes, the most obvious one seems like it might be Fragrance of Page, but the other members of this lobby cannot be ignored, cannot be allowed to, you know, just be dropped by the wayside. because they're all capable of putting up crazy scores on a map like this in a situation like this themselves. And so, once more, unto the breach we go. For the final time in 3WC 2025, the MP start comes in, the map loads in. It's Amamiya Kokoro, Fragrance of Page, and Allegrisimo for South Korea, looking to cap off their tournament run with a victory here and continue their streak in 3WC. United States with Taquito, Flamesteer, and Pez. Taquito adding that preference hidden mod as they try to do what South Korea perhaps did to them a little bit in OWC. Taquito and Pez looking for just the tiniest feeling of revenge against South Korea for handing the United States their first defeat in so long in the OSU World Cup. 3WC is, a consolation prize in that regard, but it would be something. And so here we go for the last time into the map. And let's see who can shine brightest when the lights are brightest themselves.
A very early miss for Taquito, traded with Amamiya Kokoro. Everybody else holding on to the full combos. Slight ACK advantage for South Korea, giving them the score lead at the moment. Not too much to talk about with these early breaks coming through and everyone else holding on that bottom row. As we get different pattern after different pattern, these wiggle 1/3 into more of the tech sliders and streams to accompany them. Some back and forth jumps there. Fragrance Page actually breaking on the space stream right afterwards. That angle a little bit rough, but Pez drops immediately after him. And now it's Flamesteer and Allegrisimo holding on to the only full combos in the lobby. Taquito and Amamiya Kokoro matching. Fragrance Page and Pez matching. And it's just 13k in favor of South Korea. Again, off the accuracy. There goes Flamesteer. That is one break for the United States. Does Allegrisimo trade it? Not quite yet. It's up to 25k now in favor of South Korea. As we enter a relatively slow section here, a little bit of free combo for Allegrisimo going into the next quarter, into this lower BPM section of the song. And this is now score lead building for South Korea. Combos matching aside from that FC for Allegrisimo. There's a double break, however, for Amamiya Kokoro and Fragrance of Page. And now Taquito and Pez are able to match that FC with their combined powers. With the power of friendship combined, they are able to match that FC. And the score lead should stop going over, but there goes Taquito, and now it's back again. The FC making the difference for Allegrisimo and South Korea.
But immediately, it's going to be the slider break coming through for Allegrisimo. Finally drops the FC, but Pez falls immediately thereafter, so United States unable to take advantage of what was handed to them. And now South Korea, one of Amamiya Kokoro or Fragrance of Page is matching Flamesteer. The other has free combo, as they are identically positioned at reaching 500 combo now. Flamesteer breaks, and now South Korea, 1,000 unanswered combo to their side as we near the halfway mark. The lead up over 50,000 points. Plenty of time, lots of maps still to come. This is nowhere near done yet, but as long as Amamiya Kokoro holds and the Fragrance of Page as well holds, South Korea is going to continue building this lead out. United States far behind as Flamesteer and Pez doing what they can to try to build back up, but not getting what they need to as of yet. They are going to need some help. How long can Amamiya Kokoro and Fragrance of Page continue to hold its 900 combo on both of them? Amamiya Kokoro breaks, so does Flamesteer though. And Fragrance of Page, the hero so many times throughout this match, throughout this tournament, is going to be called upon once again as his teammates both break their combo into the break at the mid portion of this map. South Korea clinging to an 88,000 score lead. Pez and Taquito combining to still not match Fragrance of Page's combo. All eyes once more for however many a time this match, for however many a time this tournament. All eyes on Fragrance of Page, 1,000 plus combo through the slow section before the map ramps back up.
And you've got to imagine the nerves are high for everyone. You can see the shakes on quite a few players at the moment as we get into this last third of the tiebreaker. It's not even a 100,000 score lead, but it's combined better scores for all three players on South Korea. The bottom score, 250k for Amamiya Kokoro, still higher than the top score on the United States, 249k for Pez, just now cresting that 250k mark. And so the extra little bit of score from Allegrisimo and Fragrance of Page is allowed to do its work. And finally, Fragrance Page now topping the lobby with that just about 290k. 1,300 combo now to his name going into the last quarter of the map as this tiebreaker ramps up once again for the last time into the final quarter. It's high combo on just about everyone through that slow section. It's a little bit lower combo on Amamiya Kokoro and Allegrissimo. Slightly higher on, of course, Fragrance of Page, but Pez and Taquito with pretty good combo for the United States as well, ready to take advantage if a miss comes through for the South Korean team. And we're into the higher BPM section here. There goes Pez for the United States. There goes Allegrissimo. It is traded for South Korea, but Taquito and Flamestare both break immediately afterwards. Fragrance of Page will drop too, but it's just not going to matter. Those 3 breaks for the United States in short order are probably going to seal the deal for South Korea. Amamiya Kokoro will break as well, and with no combo anywhere on the board, South Korea have a 100,000 score lead to their name. And the United States, it looks like they may be denied opportunity once again. The last time this country won the 3-digit World Cup was all the way back in 2020, a full 5 years ago, with 6 completely different players back then. And South Korea, their string of dominance, not just in the 3-digit World Cup, but in OWC as well, is going to continue here. It's 90k in their favor and just a little bit left in the map, and they will once again, for the 3rd time in a row, 2023, 2024, and now 2025 3-digit World Cup champions, South Korea.
And what a well-earned victory it is for South Korea, forced all the way to tiebreaker, their toughest test of this tournament since the winners final. They get the wins handily in the losers bracket final. They get the win handily in the first set of the grand final, but they show up tested, pushed all the way to the brink by the United States here in this bracket reset, all the way to the tiebreaker. Their closest individual match of any of these grand finals that they've had, and they emerge victorious once more. The roster, as you see, of Amamiya Kokoro, Rustia, Allegrissimo, Doomsday Fanboy, Fragrance of Page, and Parisia able to get the job done. And it's a team effort again on this tiebreaker. No individual incredible standouts, just all members showing up and doing their job and getting it done when it mattered. And what a well-earned victory for them. The United States, you've got to give them credit for what they showed this week, coming into the bracket reset after losing the first grand final set 7-1, making a really close match of it, making a crazy back and forth affair of things, having a match point, but South Korea just would not be denied.
Absolutely not. They show once again in bracket reset that they have still got what it takes to find the win when it most matters. Dropping some absolutely incredible scores on the DT4. Match point down, backs against the wall. You have to win that point, and boy, did they win it by 800k to force the tiebreaker. And then the massive combos come out for multiple people. 1,200 combo for Allegrissimo, 1,600 for Fragrance of Page, and Amamiya Kokoro almost 1,000 combo as well. 360k, matching the top score from the United States out of Pez. And it was a very solid run for the United States. It was an awesome bracket reset as they come extremely close to the win, but are denied once again by South Korea, who, for the first time in 3-digit World Cup history, creates a 3-year win streak. No other team has even had a win streak whatsoever in 3-digit World Cup. This is the only team with a win streak, and they have now extended it to 3. And it is a massive congratulations to South Korea for that are in order. Huge congrats on the win to them once again. And this tournament, it's been a wild ride. We've seen both South Korea and the United States look incredibly dominant throughout this tournament. Reminder, the United States actually won winners finals against South Korea 7-4. Both of these teams looked nigh untouchable until the last stages of the tournament, but South Korea just showing they have that slight edge over the United States in the very last round of this tournament. And now that it is finally over, that everything is all said and done, we can do the very last thing that we need to at the end of the 3-Digit World Cup 2025, which is to thank all of the people who made this possible. Tournaments like these don't run themselves. They require a lot of effort and time put into them by the people behind the scenes, curating the map pools, creating the graphics that you see, creating the custom stream client that you see on all of the matches, putting in the work to actually stream, cast, and ref all of these matches for everyone, doing all the technical back-end work in the spreadsheets and Discord integrations, all that kind of stuff. It is a lot of work that requires a ton of extra time from everyone involved. So huge thank you to all of the staff involved for this tournament. And a thank you once again to the two sponsors here, Wooting and Acrid. Check them out. And a final congratulations, of course, to South Korea on their third win in a row in the 3-Digit World Cup 2025.